Hi guys, it's me, Salagi. I'm back with another update on, I believe this is the fire that we are getting smoke from in my area. There was just like a ton of smoke right here, the Gifford fire, which is now, let's see. It's kind of hard for me to see it. The colors are messing with my eyes. It's 43,118 acres. There's 5% containment, which might explain the white smoke that we're being engulfed in. There is a evacuation order level 3 go for these areas. Santa Barbara County, San Luis Obispo County. So it might seem strange that this smoke is actually reaching all the way to 29 Palms, California, but it's huge. So, and they're kind of showing the route that the airplane is taking to dump water. So they're really trying to work hard on this fire. Now, I believe it started yesterday. When did it start? 2 days ago. So August 1st is when this one started at 2:05 p.m. and it's managed to take over 43,000 plus acres, and that's huge. So it was kind of scary last night when I was looking at the cameras, but let's see what we can see right now. I bet it's, oh my goodness. Wow, that's just really terrible air quality. It's not that bad where I'm at, but like we can definitely tell that there is a major fire in this area. So let's see if it was all, yeah, it's been like this for far too long now. And this camera, the location of this camera is kind of like surrounded by the fires, so I'm kind of concerned that they could eventually shut this one down and then we won't be able to see what's going on. But because it was facing the other direction yesterday and you could still see the flames, so that tells me that there are flames surrounding the camera. Here's from another angle, and you can just see the epicenter is right over there, and it's blowing east, which in order to make it to where I'm at, it would have to be blowing southeast. So I think that's what's happening. And the wind over here is just picking it up, lifting it up high, but when it gets to where I am in the Coachella Valley area, it just kind of settles down on the valley floor. And there's a power outage for Santa Maria area. And these are kind of like farmlands, so it's not real dense population. It's just a lot of farmlands at the edge right here, and the fire still is pretty far away, but it's nice that they have a reservoir for their use to combat this blaze. It's over on Route 166, and these areas are evacuation warning with the yellow. If you are in this area or just driving through, please just know that you need to turn around. Don't go through this area, because this area it's on fire. I'm sure that it's not a secret. Everybody is well aware that this fire is going on and that it's blazing for about 3 days now. Oops, I'm trying to get this camera. So it's pretty big. Just burning all the mountains. And I think I heard that this started out as a prescribed fire. I could be wrong. I think they might have said there was... Oh, and you can see the firefighters getting... Wow, that's a good angle. Let's go for an hour and see what... I think they said this fire actually started from dry lightning, and so they kind of turned it into a controlled burn, which got out of control. So that's unfortunate. I feel really bad for them because I know their best efforts sometimes don't produce much, but that's okay because all their best efforts is more than we can ask for because they are the professionals and their intentions are to spare life, save structures, rescue people, animals, dig fire lines. That's gonna help us sort of like allow the fire to run out of fuel. So anyhow, kind of goes without saying, I think, but some people I know, we tend to think that we have to blame these things on someone, and unfortunately firefighters do get the brunt of it occasionally, especially when we hear things that they were trying to use it as a controlled burn. Maybe that wasn't a great choice, but what choice do you really have when nature just creates this situation and now you have to make a few choices and hope that they are the right ones? So our best efforts to try to put these things out sometimes are not enough. But either way, we have ourselves quite a few fires. And I did also hear about Canada, for which we can't see on this map. All we can see is the hot spots, but these are in fact fires. And it's the same thing as last summer, the same exact areas. And I have wondered for a long time if these are being started by like geothermal activity. I shared a video yesterday, I think, that was talking about how California actually should be we shouldn't stop our oil production. We have a lot of oil rigs. I'll show you. I have showed you guys in other videos, but we have a lot of oil in California, and I think this is it. I don't know. There might be some spots they don't want us to look at, but over here in the San Joaquin Valley, kind of like where the old, wait, let me see, it's on the 5, there it is. This whole area, these are all oil fields. There's tons of them. I don't know how many, but there's tons of them all the way down. And this is like a really oil-rich area. And they sure have taken full advantage, right? With all these little oil fields. Anyways, my point is, because California is very active geothermically and volcanically, we do have magma movement, just like they're talking about Yellowstone right now having some movement, and that's California. Obviously, we're well known for earthquakes, and that's related to geothermal activity. And they are now saying that by having these oil fields and possibly the frack mines too, that we're relieving pressure that builds up. And if we don't do it, we're going to continue to have these fires. That's just in my opinion. Like, they didn't say that, but that's, to me, it's an obvious that this is probably what's happening, because I can't sit here and say that this is all arson, because it's not. And it happens to be very very thick around the areas where you would think they get more rain. But it's not the rain. That's not the problem. The problem is the geothermal activity. So wherever we have places that have, like the geysers and stuff like Yellowstone, and even California, we're part of the Ring of Fire, and we have mountains with a lot of geothermal activity, like the hot springs over here, in the Sierra National Forest, Yosemite right here, all of this. And they even go so far as to say that the San Joaquin Valley itself could be a caldera. If that's the case, I think that we should be relieving the pressure. I know it sounds bad, because a lot of people are like, well, no, we need to just leave the earth alone. At this point, we're like, there's nothing to stop nature. We're not going to stop anything, but we can relieve some pressure. Now, I have a theory that this is why California has not experienced any real significant earthquakes, because when you think about it, the last really huge one that made total destruction basically was San Francisco. I believe that was like 1910 or something like that. And then there was the Landers earthquake, and I might be missing a few here and there, but like Landers, the reason why it wasn't so bad is because, look at it, there's nothing out here. Let me show you Landers. This is Landers. It's all desert houses. There's not even a city here. This is rural desert ranch lands. This is why the Landers earthquake wasn't devastating. There's nothing to devastate. Well, actually, Flamingo Heights is more like Landers. This is Landers, so it's even further out with the desert. There's nothing here. They actually do have one gas station now, but this is where the Giant Rock is, the famous Giant Rock meeting room, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a giant rock. Actually, that's just the meeting room, but I believe the Giant Rock resides like somewhere in this wash, and I can't get there because actually it might be right here. Oh yeah, this is it. Pretty sure that's the Integratron. So if you know where I'm talking about, and I think the Giant Rock is in this vicinity, but the Integratron is pretty cool. It's supposed to be like maybe like a portal or like a time machine. Who knows? But there's a lot of weird formations out this way. Oh, there's the Giant Rock. Here it is. See, it's way out there, and I don't want to drive on those dirt roads to get way out there. But this is Landers. This is where there was a huge earthquake. I think it was a 7-point something, and it shook us. It did some destruction in LA, even though it wasn't that close. But there was destruction in LA from that. I think one of the freeways collapsed. But like, I was a kid. I was probably maybe 12 or 13 when that happened. So I do remember it. I remember having to rush outside because I was spending the night at my friend's house as a kid, and they lived in a apartment complex, and we were on the bottom apartment. We had an apartment above us, and it was just kind of scary. The building wasn't built that great, and when we made our way outside during the early morning earthquake, the garages had, like, the outer wall of the parking garage had moved about 7 inches off of its base. And I don't know how that happened, because I know how framing works. Like, that crap is nailed together. It's not on a sliding scale, you know. So I don't know how the buildings remained standing, but it shifted off of its off of the 2x4 that it was nailed to. So kind of crazy, and I don't know if they ever actually fixed that, and the whole complex is still standing. But, and that wasn't even near Landers. That was far away in the Coachella Valley too. That was about 40 to 50 miles from Landers. So anyways, my point is that I do believe that some of the fracking and the oil rigs here in California relieves some of the pressure that would be building up otherwise. And, you know, they tried really hard to shut them down, and I think some places, some of the rigs are being, I think one of the oil refineries is leaving California. But that doesn't mean that they can't drill. And maybe you're not for it. Like, I know Trump said, drill, baby, drill. I don't know. He's looking at it from a capitalistic point of view, but I'm looking at it from, like, we're in a big problem here with tectonic plate movement and things like that. And I used to believe that the fracking is what actually causes it. But when you look at Canada and how they say the permafrost is melting, we didn't cause that. That's a natural occurrence. And I believe it's because there's geothermal activity. Of course, if you have methane off-gassing from under the crust, and when the plates shift, it's releasing that gas, you're going to create global warming or a greenhouse gas effect, and that has nothing to do with us. So they need to actually capture that methane, because this, to me, looks like these are like little... Okay, this is what it makes me think of. If you're old enough to remember when Saddam Hussein, before he was captured and killed, if you're old enough to remember how he set the oil fields on fire, and if you remember the pictures of it, it was just flames coming out of the ground because there was nothing to cap off the oil rig. Like, he just had them set the whole thing ablaze, and it's like a lighter, you know. It's not gonna the fire doesn't go out until there's no more fuel. So that was really scary to me as a kid, because I remember him doing that. And that's kind of what this methane off-gassing reminds me of. I'm not trying to scare anybody. Like, I'm just discussing these things that really aren't real popular ideas, but I think it could explain a lot of the stuff going on. And it could also explain how in different parts of the world, particularly we've had this problem in California, I think Bakersfield or Barstow area, the people would turn on their tap water, and you could actually light the water on fire. There's no other explanation for that except for there's gases getting into the water. So what would explain that is natural methane being released from under the crust. And like I said, the permafrost, we've all known, right, that the permafrost is supposed to stay frozen, but it's not. And I've seen videos where people have gone up there, researchers, they'll go way up here and to do their research, and the video showed how they could just light this off-gassing portal or whatever from the earth, and there's ice all the way around it, but you see like a flamethrower coming out of this hole in the ground. And I've seen videos like that from years ago, like maybe a decade ago. They were talking about it, and it scared the crap out of me. I never wanted to even know about it anymore. But now that we're kind of fast forwarding into the future, having a little more understanding of the earth and how the earth moves and what happens when the earth moves, and just looking at the Hawaiian Islands, the way that they were created is the volcano, the tectonic was moving over these hot spots, and that's so it would stay there over that hole for, I don't know, 1,000 years maybe, and allowed that volcano, that lava vent, to create an island. Like the Big Island is the youngest island, so the other islands in the island chain are much older. The smaller islands are much older because they've been weathered, and there's no growth on those islands because they're no longer over, like the island chain is moving, right? Because it's part of a tectonic plate system, and only the Big Island is directly above the lava vent that created all the islands. So without continuing to ramble on, I just feel like I gave you guys a whole mouthful today. I'm going to end this video here, and I will update you guys if I need to update you about this Gifford fire, which is the biggest fire in Central and Southern California at the moment. Santa Barbara area, which is such a beautiful area. But also what's directly across from this fire is Bakersfield. So that is a very dry area, and that's where all the oil fields are. So let's just hope that this fire doesn't continue to grow. It's closer to the oil fields than the previous fire that was threatening this area, which was also equally huge. But I think this fire is a little bit closer to these oil fields than that other one. The other one, I think it had to go past a whole nother mountain range to get over there. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoy your Sunday afternoon. Bye-bye.